with like $100, where it has that interpolation of Pass the Dutchie.
Yep.
Which I would say that is a very interesting interpolation of Pass the Dutchie. I've never heard it framed like that
Same.
before.
I was like, I honestly had to go back and I'm like, am I misreading the song?
Yeah.
Like, am I not getting what's going on? Good afternoon, beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, and how the album fits into the context of that artist's career. For everyone watching on YouTube, thank you for staying with us. Demar has been holding it down. Show us some love. Like this video, share it with your people, and of course, make sure you're subscribed. My name is Adriel Smiley, aka AdrielSmiley.com, aka Adriel Smiley Official, aka The Godfather, and we're here with His Royal Highness, aka the Bunny, King Grant.
Shout out New Jeans. Shout out New Jeans. Shout out New Jeans. I was just breaking down the label drama to Adriel. But we're back. This time it's with Fousheé, Pointy Heights. New album, new project. Fousheé is one of those artists that I've seen featured on other things. I think she was featured on Vince Staples' work.
Yeah.
And so I was always curious about, okay, what does new music from her actually sound like? We're finally here. Pointy Heights, man.
Yeah, I think she's an interesting artist for me. Again, another test case because this is a Black female artist who's not making R&B. And I think that a lot of Black female artists, automatically, that's what you assume that they're doing. I think that a lot of times people have called her music R&B when they don't call it R&B. And I wanted to share something from a press release that her team sent out because I was interested. What is the team calling this music? What are they calling this genre? So I'm going to read you two parts. With Pointy Heights, Fousheé zigs out of the frenetic R&B punk of her acclaimed previous album, Softcore.
Okay.
So we're starting with R&B punk. Okay. That's one way to put it. And then it says, we're old school indie reggae, rhythms, bayou, dance-friendly melodies, and a natural cool make her the go-to collaborator for today's biggest artist. That reminded me of my time as music director when they would throw every word to describe music into one sentence. That was it right there. But I wanted to start there because she is almost, to me, the female Tizo Touchdown.
Ooh.
Ending up on a bunch of records. Not everyone knows who she is. You don't always see it come in. But her collaborators, I think, speaks to the kind of artist she is. Mm-hmm. She's on Lil Yachty's album a few times. On Tizo Touchdown's album a few times. That's fitting. On Steve Lacy's album. And on Childish Gambino's latest project. So she is really in that world of the Black artists who are kind of making that alternative, indie, popish music. Now, usually I try and look at artists and say, okay, where am I in my fandom with them? How many songs do I have saved? No, I think back to when we did Don Toliver, I had like 140 songs saved. Spoiler alert, I'm a big Don Toliver fan. But with this project and this artist, I only had 2 songs saved.
Okay.
One, and this is my favorite song, of course, because it's the main one saved, Double Standard, one of her older songs, and then Deep End as well. Where are you coming into this as a Fousheé fan? Yeah,
Fousheé to me has always been something curious because it's one of those names that I see everywhere. Like all of the artists that you named, we've even reviewed. I think we reviewed literally all of them.
Yep. Other than Steve Lacy.
Yeah, except for Steve Lacy, we reviewed all of them. And I think I remember her being on the Vince Staples album, or am I misremembering that?
Yeah, she's on that as well.
So I've seen her name everywhere. And that was pretty much my intro to her because it kind of reminds me of like almost Don Toliver, where it's like Don Toliver, you saw his name in a couple places and you're like, oh, let me tap in. So that was it for me. Fousheé is, I don't think before this, I think I've maybe heard 1 or 2 songs by her specifically. Like these are her creations. Mm-hmm. But to me, up until now, or up until listening to this album, she was mostly like a featured artist to me.
Yes.
Mostly a featured artist. So it was, this Pointy Heights was really for me to see, okay, so what does she mean? What does she exist as by herself? right? This album has no features, which I like because I think that this is probably one of the, I don't know, the highest profile versions of her that's ever existed. Because remember, she had Deep End.
Yep.
Right? This it was basically one of those songs where TikTok just
did their thing with it
and just spun it into its own entity. So this is really almost like a reintroduction of her to everybody. So that's what it was like for me. I'm like, okay, the reintroduction, I'm here being introduced for the first time as a solo artist, really. This is how I'm diving in.
Yeah, I think as well, I got to mention about the name of the project, Pointy Heights, named after the land her grandfather purchased in Jamaica with the intention that her whole family could build homes and live there. Of course, we're both Jamaican, so we must give this a good score.
Yeah.
Okay, just off of the name of the project having to do with Jamaica, good score on the way for all the Jamaicans out there. I want to start with the intro, Birds, Bees.
Love that song.
Because I think that this project really took me back in time. Like, there was a time when this kind of music was all I listened to. Like, it brought me back to that era of my life in my early 20s when this was like, this would have been on repeat, like over and over and over again. And I didn't love Birds, Bees as an intro, but I felt like it did a good job of kind of setting everyone up for what you're going to get in the project. And it was kind of, I guess, calm enough that it's like there's still place to go upwards.
Yeah, I think I loved Birds, Bees. I always want to say Birds and Bees, but Birds, Bees. I love that track just because of how bouncy and chill it is. It's a reggae song. So that is the that is the ethos to reggae music, is for it to be bouncy and relaxing. But I think it's a great intro just because you're right. I think it sets the tone. I think that it definitely, when you're saying that, like when you intro your music with reggae music, you're kind of like you're really just being like, to do a reggae song to start off with, it's not like you're making hip hop music, you know what I mean? Like you're not making rock music. Like no other genre of music is like, oh, I'm gonna throw a reggae song at the top and then I'm gonna figure out ways to, you know, navigate that, unless you're existing in a reggae space or maybe branching slightly, which I think that Fousheé does. But yeah, it was a tone setter that I liked. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the reggae parts of this album.
See, I think to me, it's like not reggae enough.
Okay.
And why I said I liked it for the project is that like this is almost like reggae adjacent to me more than actual reggae. Like if you went to a reggae festival or a reggae concert and you heard this next to like 30 reggae songs the whole day, you're like, oh, this isn't the one non-reggae song. But next to all these songs that are more kind of indie, rockish, popish, this is the reggae song. And so I thought why I like that to start is most of this project is not like one specific genre.
I agree.
Like I think it's a certain sound, but why I liked it is because, you know, she's working with all these artists who are hip hop adjacent and or the straight rappers like Vince Staples, even Childish Gambino. But I think the, you know, traditional hip hop R&B listener, this is not their speed.
Right.
They'd come in and hear Birds and Bees and say, I don't know about this one. And I actually like that from her because the whole project kind of has that feel where if you are just a strictly hip hop and R&B listener, this is not going to be easy for you to kind of get into. I think there's a blot on here that really sounds like other artists. Okay. And it really reminds me of Lil Yachty's project where it's like, it's almost like she's cosplaying some of the artists she's a huge fan of. Do You Have a Soul does that right away. Okay. That feels like a Karangbin song through and through. Okay. Like anyone who's a fan of Karangbin, this sounds like it came off their last project or the project before that or the project before that. True. I love Karangbin, so I'm not mad at that sound. But I think, again, it really reminds me of Lil Yachty's project in that way of like, you heard certain songs, you're like, that's Tame Impala song. Yeah. You listen to Currents on repeat, I can tell. That's kind of what I feel here of like, I can tell where the influence came from right away. Yeah, I think that there is even more of that with like $100, where it has that interpolation of Pass the Dutchie. Yep. Which I would say that is a very interesting interpolation of Pass the Dutchie. I've never heard it framed like that. Same. Before. I was like, I honestly had to go back and I'm like, am I misreading the song? Yeah. Like, am I not getting what's going on? Yeah, so for her to frame it, because it's that song $100 is very washed out,
very slow. Her singing style is very almost like whisper singing.
Yep.
And for her to go through all of this like very relaxed, mellow, and just like washed out.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, she's like, we'll drink coffee and we'll be $100, right? And then she's like, pass the Dutchie on the left hand side. I'm like, wait, what?
Like, what did I miss there?
Yeah, not in a bad way. I just didn't even see it coming.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that it could be framed in this like indie rock way.
Mm-hmm.
But this is her, I would say, her being able to join reggae music and indie pop. It's like almost like dream pop in a way.
Yeah.
In a way that I just like, literally, I've never heard it before. Maybe Janelle Monáe has done similar, but like
I
this
haven't heard it. Nah, yeah, no, same. This was in my notes. I was like, again, the Jamaican side of her is really coming out in this song, but that again caught me off guard. And I think too, it's like that's almost the Easter egg for the Black listener.
Yeah,
because I think obviously you don't have to be Black to know that line or know that song, but I think hearing those lyrics in a song like this, your ears will perk up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost similar to Shabuzi using some of his slang, not even Tipsy, but the rest of the project, some of the slang he's using of the hammer or things like that. And if you're not a country listener, you're like, oh, I understand that. So I think she does a good job of that here. One more time where it really, really reminds me of someone else is Closer, which may be my favorite song on here. One of my favorite songs on here. But that shaker guitar combo at the start was giving late career Kid Cudi. And it really felt like it's about to get ragey. Like it didn't. It obviously was more mellow after that, but it really felt like that's where it was headed. Mm-hmm. And why I wanted to mention that song is because Steve Lacy is a frequent collaborator on here. Like he has a bunch of production credits. Yeah. I think that's something that's interesting because they've collaborated before, but he's not on here vocally on this project. And just as a producer, I thought that was pretty interesting. I think that is where I really was kind of focused on this project in terms of kind of trying to forget her past music in a sense. Because the people I know who know about Fousheé say they don't love her because of her voice. And I've heard a lot of critique of her voice of, I like her sound, but her voice is somehow doesn't resonate with me. And I think this project, I feel a lot less of that. And a song like Closer is one of those where at the beginning, it doesn't even sound like her.
Right.
And I think like it's not like Yeet levels of voice modulation. Like, of course there's levels of this, but there are times where she does like a few different voices in similar tones. And I think for an album like this, that's really helpful. Yeah.
It's so interesting when you said Closer reminded you of an artist. I thought you were going to say Arlo Parks.
That's interesting.
I thought you were going to say Arlo Parks, and I don't think that it's a bad. I think she's not the songwriter Arlo Parks is, obviously, because Arlo Parks is a master.
Yes.
Right? But I thought that her singing sound, I think that even this style of production where it's like using the cans and like the shakers, kind of reminded me of Arlo Parks in a way where Arlo Parks is using the production to kind of push forward her songwriting when her songwriting is typically slower. Mm-hmm. But this is more of like she's almost bringing like a rock tilt to it, to her singing, which is I think it's like a weird combination, but I think it's working. I think maybe you don't think it's working. I thought it was working because her singing reminded me of the melodies of Arlo Parks without the songwriting of Arlo Parks.
Yeah.
And then even the production was like kind of similar to Arlo Parks. Or even I wrote in my notes for this song, this reminds me at the very beginning, reminds me of Lovesick by Muramasa and A$AP Rocky.
I had that here too, yeah.
And I was like, whoa. I'm like, is that a sample or what? But I'm like, everybody could be using a shaker, you know what I mean? So,
but it was very close. That first downbeat, like the first 4 bars.
Yeah, first 4 bars, I'm like, huh?
Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, I see where you're headed with this.
Yeah.
Nah, so I'm with you on that. This is my last bit of production. And I think I've never been, I don't say that I've been the biggest fan because I do like her production, but I've always more focused on like her melodies, her songwriting, her vocally, because I think that is what's kind of more unique about her than the production. But Rice and Peas, first of all, like I said before, this is a Jamaican podcast. Yes. You got to shout out the Rice and Peas.
I don't like Rice and Peas. Not the red, not the kidney peas. I like gungu rice and peas.
Okay, no, you still passed. That was a close one.
I'm gungu supremacy.
Gungu, no.
Gungu supremacy, bro.
No, gungu is the real rice and peas.
Yeah.
Like the other one is the mainstream rice and peas.
Yeah, exactly.
But rice and peas is different from basically everything else on this project.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of into that sound for her. Like, I think there's something there of like a more electronic kind of, I don't want to say vibey. It's actually more like a driving sound.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like a scene in a movie where someone's getting in an Uber, like in a rush somewhere. You know, like that's what it feels like to me. So
Yeah.
rice and peas, didn't see that coming from her, but I like that sound from her. And I think this is what shows me from this project. Like, she may not have the vocal range of the people that we're talking about, but I think she can fit on a bunch of different sounds.
Yeah. The versatility is high. Because that's kind of like very, like electronic. Like it's leaning closer to, I think I bring them up a lot, but like Fousheé and the Banshees type of like this really.
I was gonna say Lord. Like Lord is
Lord, Fousheé and the Banshees. I'm trying to think of like a good third example. It's not coming to me. But yeah, that's a weird, like this odd electronic sound. But again, she loves these washed out vocals, and that's why I bring up the Fousheé and the Banshee thing. Is like the stretched, washed out vocals. But she's able to apply that to multiple different genres. So this is more of like an electronic song. We talked about like the reggae song that she was talking before, and then like dream pop. So she's been able to traverse these genres in a way that sounds like they actually connect. When I feel like on your face, it would not connect. You'd be like, what is Men I Trust, Bob Marley, and
I would love that. I would love that.
And Arlo Parks, what do these people have in common, you know? Like, it'd be very odd. So she's figured out a way to make it all click. I would say that War, this is probably like the strictest like reggae track. Like that sounds literally made Bob Marley era, 1970s, 80s. Reggae track. I thought it was really good because I thought, again, like these ethereal stretch vocals over that type of production.
So not normal.
Yeah, it's not normal. Like reggae music is so straightly sung. Like I can't really remember effects being on old school reggae like that. So for her to have those type of vocals, again, like these Arlo Parks almost kind of vocals, these airy vocals, was just like a really cool, interesting combination that I want to hear more of, to be honest. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm kind of iffy on that with her. I do like War. War is my favorite songs on here, but I think that her on the kind of production, and again, I think this is maybe a me thing because I listen to maybe more reggae on a consistent basis, but I listened to a lot of Catchier recently, a lot of Bears Hammond, and it's like hearing them sing this compared to her sing this, it's like two different
worlds. Night and day.
And I think that's the thing too, is like, why this reminds me of like my younger self, again, like bless you, like my college, early 20s days, is like she's almost making these musics for people who don't listen to that music. Right. And that's why I think Janelle Monáe is a good like comp for her. Is like Janelle Monáe making music for people who don't actually listen to reggae. Like listen to Janelle Monáe over Bears Hammond sounds insane. But if you don't know who Bears Hammond is at all, Janelle Monáe is fine. Yeah. And I think that's the same thing that she's doing here. And before I get into my one set of lyrics, is like this soft voice, whisper sing, indie pop era. Like I think she's putting a twist on that we haven't really seen as much. Yeah. I think even talk about someone like Clairo, we did her album. She stepped up from what Clairo did before, but still like very much in that box of bedroom pop. Like this is definitely like, there's a bunch of holes in these boxes. Yeah. Like there's definitely some different stuff happening. So I actually appreciate that because, listen, the older me would have, I said, keep the same energy. You know what I'm saying? Like, give me a bunch of the same record. We've loved all these records. I want to talk about one record that I didn't really love. Okay. Rice and Peas was that for me, to be honest. Even though Rice and Peas, like, that interesting combo, I just didn't think it landed. Yeah. I feel like it was interesting, but didn't land. I don't know if I would. That's not what I'm running to. Yeah. But I had to mention it just for her being able to do that. Lover's Island or Lover Island, yeah, that's me or too. Lover's Land, whatever. Yeah. Whatever those words are saying. Absolute skip. Like absolute skip. Did not need to be on there. You don't like Blondie?
Because that sounds like a Blondie song.
No,
to
it's
me.
super Blondie
Yeah.
song, but it didn't need to be on this project. That's my biggest thing is on this project. And that's why some of the reggae I don't love as much on here as well, is because in a vacuum, love the experimentation, I get it. But on this project that need to be here, Lover's Land, absolutely not.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. That one's also very short. I think it's probably the shortest song.
Yeah, a minute 11.
A minute 11. Yeah, I think because she's bouncing between the dream pop and we're talking about the reggae music, electronic music, she's like, okay, let me see if I can do like new wave, right? Like this early stage of like this very interesting state of like British pop music. It didn't fully fit because I think the production is actually doing so much of the heavy lifting that she
Too much almost.
Yeah. And also she's barely audible on that song.
I think, and I don't want to say it because she's not like a new artist, but there's a point in an artist's career, and I said this to artists who I work with and ask me for advice, is you have to reach a point where you don't make everything that influences you.
Right.
It's like you may be influenced by all these different things, all these different bands. You don't have to make all that music. I feel like she's still in that stage where everything that she likes, she has to try it. And I think that that's her next step from a production standpoint, at least, is like, I know I love this over here, but I don't need to do it myself.
Yeah.
I can love it in my private life. The one set of lyrics I had is off Do You Have a Soul?
Okay.
In verse 2. And I think you kind of alluded to this before. We're not here for the lyrics with her. I would like to be, but as of now, that's not really the case. On verse 2, she says, can we turn the other cheek, knowing there's a need for humanity, erasing feelings like they're saved in the drive. We ran out of storage and capacity for it. And if the tides were to turn, you're going to need CPR. Do you have a soul? I think that just using the phrasing of erasing feelings like they're saved in a drive, we ran out of storage and capacity for it, that's almost too on the nose. If that makes any sense. Like, I thought there was a more creative way to say that, and using those kind of phrases, because again, this is very 2024. Like you talked about reggae music of the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
There ain't no lyrics about saved in a drive. That's not even in the lexicon. So there's some things in here, like even the phrasing of capacity for it. Like that's how we talk in the present. That's how we talk now.
Yeah.
So I like putting that in there, but I feel like it was almost too on the nose. And it felt more preachy than kind of, lyrically creative.
Yeah, I think her lyric ability is, I would say, there's much to be desired. I think that because the artists that we're comparing her to are also super adept. Like we're talking about, first of all, reggae music is like a lyrical form.
Yeah.
Because of how more simplistic the production style is, that the songwriting is actually like the strong suit of a lot of reggae music. But and then I was also talking about Oliver Parks, right? So we're talking about like super strong songwriting, and when you're making indie pop reggae in this like style of music, when the production isn't as like enveloping as something that we're listening to when it's like trap music or something like that, or even Charlie XCX when Charlie XCX was still doing songwriting shit in her music on Brat. But because it's so reductionist in its production, and it's so at least so much space for her to actually be a vocalist and sing about actual things, when she is not really filling that with a lot of substance, like a lot of like real substance, then it's like it kind of feels like empty calories. Right, so you have a song like Closer, right, where she's like, this is in verse 1, she's like, bury my hands in your hands. We could start a fire, making friction, pulsing heartbeats, inspiring dancing. Why is this tempo flowing like air, so familiar? There's something special going on here. When I'm with you, then it's the chorus. When I'm with you, I'm closer to God. When I'm with you, I'm closer to God. So it's like not really... Like, it's very simplistic.
Yes.
Super simplistic. I think it sounds great when she sings it. I like that hook a lot when she sings it because her vocals are super airy. And the melodies are pretty good. But when we're coming to the lyrics, I'm like, I'm not sure. I don't know if this is working for me.
And I think like the simplicity in this genre of music is pretty standard.
Mhm.
Like I think that's a lot of artists have that. So I don't want to like have her lose too much points
Yeah.
for that in a sense. But I think it's simplistic without being tight. And
True.
I think that is kind of where it falls off. Is like I think of a group like Men I Trust, very simplistic in their lyrics,
Absolutely.
tight.
Yeah.
It's like we're not missing a beat, even if we're not giving you these, multi-syllables and third meanings. It's pretty tight lyrically. So I think that's one thing that she's missing. But I don't know if she's at a place in her career people are really, critiquing that from her.
Yeah.
Like I think the critique of her voice and her sound is like kind of the base level where people are critiquing her. I think she's new enough where it's like she got like 2 more albums for people to start to notice. I think obviously we'll notice on album mode. That's what we do here. But I think she has some kind of space before she gets there. Do you have any other lyrics where we talk about her career?
I would say that I want to say that like I like her melodies a lot.
Yeah.
I think she's really good on the melodies, especially Birds, Bees. Birds, Bees, the verses are catchier than the chorus. Like that melody
Facts.
with especially verse 1 is like I see you move. Obviously, I'm speaking it instead of hearing the melodies from it, but it's like I see you moving around this town like I'm not frequently up and down. Wonder if you'll collide with me or just dance around the streets. Like, that's a great, good visualization, but the melody on the verses is so, so, so immaculate. It's so breezy. Like everything about it's breezy. Her music is breezy. So when she nails these breezy melodies and these really sweet melodies, it really pulls the songs together, I think, for me. And I think it also happens on well, I'm trying to remember the song. It also happens on Feel Like Home, right? It does that as well. Like the staccato.
How do we not talk about Feels Like Home? That's my favorite song.
Yeah, Feels Like Home is really good. I think it has she has the staccato delivery, and then the choruses are super, super lush, beautiful, right? So I think that her craftsmanship when it comes to pretty much everything except for the actual like pen game of what is happening on the notepad is actually really, really solid. So I want to at least say that. I want to at least congratulate that because I think it's really good. It's hard to make the verses melodies better than the chorus. It's hard to do that.
I think she has a knack for that. Like it does feel natural of her like stringing these melodies together. I think for her career, like I think this project is a plus. Like there's enough songs on here that are good that I think will get played that I'm like, this is a win for her career.
Yeah.
I do think that there is like, I don't want to say an identity crisis, but there is kind of a in between of how her music actually is and how she is versus how people view her. And I think that that's like the public hasn't caught up to that yet.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people still think she's an R&B artist. Like I know that it's crazy to say that, but I think
she's black, so black woman, bro.
I know, and I think a song like Deep End didn't really change that for a lot of people. And then I think songs like Double Standard, people are not always hip to. It's like they might know only, like you said, only know the features. So like, hey, you did a song with Vince Staples, you must be an R&B artist doing a hook. So I think for a career, this is helping with people catch up to the reality. But I still think there's some ways to go.
Yeah, and I think that this project for how able she is to traverse different genres, for her to have the perception to the general public, I think would be like a R&B artist. But then for her music to actually be reggae, dream pop, alt indie, rock music, it just shows like the versatility extremely high.
Yep, it's there.
Extremely high on the versatility. So how do you feel about the cover?
I like it. I would actually prefer that she show her face more. I feel like I say that for every cover. Because I do feel like for a lot of these artists who are, people don't know them yet, they're on the come up, like your face recognition is worth so much.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'll go back to someone like Vince Staples, who everyone knows what Vince Staples looks like. Not everyone listening to his music.
True.
And I think that like this is the kind of thing where how you look and your visage can help you kind of become bigger as an artist. But I like this cover, man. I like the colors, the checkered floor with the kind of rough concrete background. I think the color scheme of this is what makes it stand out to me.
Yeah, I think it looks great, but I think it's also like the antithesis of the music. Like how dreamy and like delicate this music
Yeah.
sounds for her to have like black and white concrete and like gray hair, gray
Mhm.
background is like who was doing the vibe who was checking the vibe on this? I feel like they didn't get the vibes.
You know what's funny? This kind of adds up to how I feel about her as an artist,
Mhm.
where I'm like, it feels like the departments don't talk.
Right.
Like, like you know what I mean? Like, it sometimes feels like whoever's doing production ain't talk to the songwriter.
Right.
Whoever's doing the cover ain't talk to who did the album.
Mhm.
So this kind of goes together of how I, personally view her as an artist.
Yeah, but I think it looks great.
Mhm.
Do you think it's a vinyl cop though?
Not a vinyl cop for me.
Oh,
Yeah, I think in terms of like going forward for her, the cover, this being a vinyl, you mentioning Arlo Parks was a very good comparison, I feel like. And I think that she's far behind Arlo Parks.
Mhm.
I think that the music still sounds good. Like it's still good music. But I think the level that we think she can reach, she's, pretty far from that. And so I feel like once we get to that place where I don't have to make every type of music that I like. Once we get there, I think we're going to be in a good spot. But that's what this album feels like to me is like everything that I like, I'm going to try and make a copy of it.
yeah. I think that I don't think it is a vinyl cop, even though that the front or the cover looks incredible. I think that is it a no skips? Is it a no skips? I think that
No way.
it's not. It's not a no skips.
No way.
I think that there's two songs. Well, I would personally skip Rice and Peas. Maybe people would be a little bit different by that. But Lovers Land is also something that I would skip as well.
Super skip.
So it's not a vinyl cop, not a no skips, but I would say that I don't hate it. So
A glowing review.
A glowing review. What do you think? The moment that we've all been waiting for, the album that we don't hate, Pointy Heights by Fousheé. Adriel, what is your score?
This is a 5.5 to me.
Wow.
This is like a little bit above average. I think it's good, but I think the drawbacks I have, I couldn't give it a 6. There's not that many songs on here that I'm like, I have to listen to. I think it's something that I like, but I think, especially for people like us, there's enough of this kind of music we have in our life that we can go back to that.
Right.
And I think a couple songs on here, I'm like, okay, these will definitely make some kind of playlist. But the rest, I'm like, these are good in the project. But once I go back to the real McCoy, I don't know if I want this anymore. So 5.5 for me. This is the best score she's ever gotten on this podcast.
Really?
It's
the first time.
It's the only score she's ever gotten.
Yeah, it's the only score she's ever gotten. Like, what?
But still the best score.
Yeah.
But yeah, this to me is just good, and I can't go above that.
Okay.
What about you?
I think for me, Pointy Heights by Fousheé, a 6.5.
Wow.
6.5. I'm a full point ahead of you. I think
that's the highest score she's ever got on this podcast.
Yeah. I think her singing is really good. I think that her melodies are very good as well. I think her biggest issue is her songwriting, like the songs actually being about things that happens, but how strictly she adheres to the theme or having the lyrics be like interesting in a significant way. She's not doing that right now. Production is really solid, but a lot of things we're seeing we're seeing a lot of places where you're taking the inspirations from. Like it's not a far reach. I think the Pass the Dutchie interpolation, that is really good.
That caught me. That caught me.
That's really good because I never even thought you can even twist it in that type of way to make it like a dream pop song. So I think it's good. I think it's solid. 6.5 to me, solid. Right? 7 is where I'm like, this is good. And then 8, 9, we're talking about the very good 9, 10s, classics.
6.5 feels high, but
yeah.
I agree with most of what you said. So I don't have any big complaints there. I want to know in the comments, let us know what you guys think. Is this too high of a score that I gave it? Is Demar too high of a score? Are there actually Fousheé fans already in our algorithm? Leave a comment.
Please.
What do you call your group of fans? We don't even know that.
Foo-foo? Foo-foo fans.
We're not going to go with that one. Appreciate you guys staying with us. Of course, find us on the interwebs at Album Mode Pod, on TikTok at Album Mode Pod, on Twitter at Album Mode Pod, on Instagram, on your podcast platforms. Leave us a rating and a review, 5 stars, not a single star less. And all my YouTube people, like this video, share it with your people, subscribe, and of course, leave us some comments. And until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
Later days.